The biggest challenge in any gay man's life after 40, after having some relationships in your life, is not going to be the actual finding of the next lover. It will be moving on from past relationships. I've noticed a very interesting pattern with a lot of men I've worked with over the past 7 years. And these are men, gay professional men 40 and plus. They have a great sense of difficulty moving on from past relationships. And most of the time, when I work with a new client, the first thing that I have to do, the biggest constraint that we have to focus on is past relationship and the lack of resolution from it, lack of moving on, holding on to ex-boyfriends, holding on to the fantasies, the irrational ideas, and the symbolism of what that ex-boyfriend was like, what was possible with him, and then we carry that into the future. We compare future dates to our ex-boyfriends, we compare body traits, we compare personality traits, and in reality, what we are doing is we're not giving the future dates a chance to impress us. We're cutting them off because they don't compare to what we used to have in the past. So if you find yourself in a situation where you've had an ex-boyfriend, could be 3 years ago, 5 years ago, sometimes even 10 years ago, and if you find that you still have something inside you that is holding you back, that is related to that relationship, then this video is for you. I'm going to teach you a powerful method for allowing you to let go of your ex-boyfriend, to finally create a clean slate where the new person, the new date that you meet can enter, and you can stop the comparing, you can stop the contrasting, and you can stop the analysis that originated with your ex-boyfriend and the feelings, the good feelings and the extraordinary sense of adventure that he used to create for you, that you're still hoping will be replicated with the man that you are now dating. So let's start out by being really, really honest. And this applies to me as well and to you. And we want to start out with accepting the fact that moving on is difficult, especially if you've spent a substantial amount of time with the person over the course of 2 or 3 years. So there are two kinds of relationships. There is the relationship where you see somebody once a month or once every couple of weeks, and there's the relationship where you see somebody all the time, multiple times a week. Eventually, then you move in together and you spend a tremendous amount of time together. That relationship will be difficult to let go of, no matter how you look at it. So being patient and being really, really accepting and loving of yourself is a must, because you're not going to be able to feel the feelings that later will be part of the method that I'm going to teach you unless you slow down and really hear your heart, hear also your stomach. And your stomach is the gut reaction, the instinct, the intuition, and the heart is the emotion. And to the degree that you disconnect from logic. So your head, whatever you're thinking, the analysis of the relationship, you're trying to be better, trying to control it, trying to fight with yourself, with your mind. The mind says to you, oh no, it makes sense that we broke up. On the left side, I write all the pluses, and on the right side, I write all the minuses about the person, and your mind is saying, yeah, it's self-explanatory to move on. It's self-explanatory, it should be self-explanatory that this relationship should never work. But it doesn't matter, because your heart will always take over, and your stomach, your sense of intuition, your sense of deeper connection with the person will take over, and your mind in that situation actually stands in the way. So the starting point is to be patient, to be loving, and to recognize that we are in a different space. This is not a space where logic and your mind is going to be useful, at least not at the beginning. Later, yes, but at the beginning stage, we have to listen to the heart and to your intuition. The reason why some people mean to us a lot more than others is because when we were children, we had certain needs that our mom and dad did not meet for us. And when those needs are met by that person who is now your ex-boyfriend, all of a sudden we're talking about irrational patterns from childhood that are now present into the dynamic of that relationship. There will be no logic to it. You can be inside of a physical abusive relationship and still love the person. You can be emotionally abused and still love the person. So allow yourself not to have to make any sense. It's not about making sense. It's not about logic. It's completely irrational. Here's how to explain it. Imagine I'm holding 2 cups of water here, and each cup of water represents your psychology and his psychology, the lover, the ex-lover you're looking to let go of. Imagine both glasses are poured into the 3rd glass. And now that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a mixture of personality traits, mixture of character, mixture of adventurous experiences on both ends that you brought to the table, that he brought to the table. And then we're adding to it the meaning that you gave that relationship. And so and the meaning will be irrational. The meaning will be, you will be looking at in your childhood, whatever you did not have from your parents. You're going to look at the man who will serve as a proxy, and there will be this huge projector on the wall where you're going to project what could have happened with that man, what you could have had with him, the wedding, the amazing sex, the businesses you could have started, the new projects you could have taken on together, the new adventures, the places you could have traveled together, meeting his family, getting connected to his family, he getting connected to your family, maybe children, maybe family, maybe other couples that you would meet together, the whole lifestyle you would have created out of that relationship. But all of that is irrational. All of that is a fantasy. All of that is the meaning that you added to it, and it's projected on the screen. That's why letting go of relationships from the past where we really had a tight connection will be very, very difficult. And some men take 10 years. There are men that never recover from those relationships. And for the rest of their lives, they struggle creating new relationships because that symbolism of the past relationships was so profound, because that man met the needs that you or my client or that person never had met in his entire lives. And there is not even awareness of those needs. That's why that attachment is so long lasting, and the person takes that attachment to the grave. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to go through the stages of the moving on process, which includes dealing with a loss of that fantasy, loss of that movie you projected onto the screen, and then the loss of the real presence of the person, loss of the deeper interactions you've had together, loss of being there for each other, for supporting each other, loss of the fun that you've had together, the adventures you created together. And that will take a while. The brain has to process the content of what it meant to you, and that takes a while. It's like a hard drive filled with content, memories, adventures, feelings, sexuality, new things you've never done before. All of that has to be now processed, and some of the meanings out of the real memories that you've had with the person, there will be sadness, because you will realize that there is a possibility, and this might be real, that that level of excitement might never happen in your life. And so we want to accept that you are really dealing with a serious loss of opportunity to experience lots of excitement, lots of activities that perhaps will never happen again. A huge challenge for you will be to slow down your life and feel those emotions. If you are the kind of guy that always is on the move, always is creating new projects, is the typical type A executive, then for you this will be challenging. And to the degree that you slow down your life and have the courage to feel the sadness, feel the disappointment, also feel the love you still might be having towards the person, or the yearning, the neediness to be around the person, if you allow yourself to feel that, the process of moving on will happen much faster, and you will learn a lot more from the process. Otherwise, you're going to go out there, keep doing all kinds of projects, all kinds of activities that will distract you from the work that you have to do internally to process the emotions that are happening after the breakup. Another aspect of moving on that may be challenging is the fact that most men in general, straight men and also gay men, don't know how to process emotions. So for example, how often do you cry? Crying is a very natural process for every human being. So allowing yourself to cry when you're sad, when you feel anxious, when you feel depressed, is a very healthy process for the body to go through a release, physiological release and also emotional release. And many men don't do that. They don't know how to do that, or they cut themselves off completely from emotions. So this will make it very difficult to move on and to create a clean slate for the new relationship. What I recommend to all my clients is a regular process of meditation, regular practice of meditation. Meditation will cut away all the distractions that you're using to mask what you're feeling. And a lot of times the reason why some men don't want to meditate is because they are afraid, unconsciously, are afraid of facing the emotions. And so they can't even sit still for 5 minutes because they have to do something. Because if they stand still, they have to confront a wave of some emotion that comes onto their body, and they're afraid of that. And if we're afraid of that, we are unlikely to move on into a healthier state of mind and be able to attract healthy relationships to our lives, simply because the content, remember, the brain has content of memories. Those memories are attached to feelings. And if those feelings are unexpressed, if they are suppressed, and later repressed, then it becomes a big challenge for the rest of our lives to create healthy relationships, because emotions are an integral part of every relationship and also every process of moving on from past relationships and creating new relationships. So the method that I would recommend to you to move on from your ex-boyfriend to create healthy relationships would include meditation, journaling, and then sharing with the subject of your emotions how you feel. When I completed my moving on process, I shared with my ex-boyfriend a voicemail where I specifically volunteered and I became very vulnerable and shared that I still loved him even after 4 years have passed. And it was very uncomfortable for me. I had to let go of having to be better. I had to let go of having to prove to himself that I'm okay. I had to state that I'm not okay. I still miss him. I still love him. I still want him in my life. He then later called me back and left a message for me saying that he no longer loves me. He does not want to be in a relationship with me. And even though it sounded really harsh, that was the moment when everything left my body and I realized that we would never be together. And I realized that all the projection of my irrational fantasies onto my ex-boyfriend, all of a sudden that projector completely became blank, and I was ready, and I knew and I felt I was ready for a new relationship. So moving on from past ex-boyfriends is going to be challenging. It's going to involve some mental gymnastics. And the difference between men and women is that men have difficulty processing emotion. Yet emotion is the integral part of every relationship. And so to the degree that you suppress your emotions, you train yourself to suppress emotions, eventually that suppression becomes repression, which is an unconscious suppression of emotion. And that's what makes it very difficult, sometimes impossible for men to move on. So meditation, journaling, sharing with other people how you feel, and then also ultimately contacting the person that is the subject of that emotion, sharing with vulnerability, with authenticity, and getting their feedback provides a wonderful journey for moving on from your past relationship. And if you need additional support, hiring a coach and counselor is super helpful, because you don't want to take 5 years or 10 years or 15 years of polluting your possible new relationships with what you're dragging with you from the past. So I highly recommend you take this very seriously, because I do believe that it is one of the biggest challenges for gay men today in the process of creating a long-term committed relationship that eventually can become a marriage and a long-term permanent presence in your life. In the process, you will also learn a lot about psychology, learn about how emotions work with you, and this skill you will take and you will use for the rest of your life. So it is important and helpful for you to familiarize yourself with what it takes to move on from the past relationships and create a clean slate for the new relationship. So I hope this video helps you. I'm looking forward to talking to you in the next video. Please visit my website for additional videos about the psychology of gay sexuality, gay relationships. You can visit my website at paulangelo.com. And as always, until I talk to you in the next video, go out there, think big, stay present, and be a leader in your life today. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.